third and final lesson is on special solutions of linear equations. Everything we've seen up until this point has had an equation with one solution. However, we can have equations that have no solutions and infinite solutions. If you're seeing an equation with no solutions, that means the variables have canceled out and we're left with a false statement. If you're seeing an equation that has infinite solutions, that means your variables have canceled out, but you're seeing a true statement. So let's look at some examples. Starting with the equation A, we have 3 times 5x plus 2 equals 15x. The first thing we need to do is solve just like we would any other equation. So this one we need to multiply using the distributive property. 3 times 5x is 15x, and 3 times 2 is 6. We've just simplified our first step. Now, we're going to start combining like terms and moving things around. If you notice, we have x's on both sides of the equal sign. So if I were to try and subtract 15x to one side, what do you notice? Well, 15x minus 15x is 0, and that's going to happen on both sides. So, when those zeros occur, we're left with just a 6 on the left and a 0 on the right. Is 6 ever going to equal 0? No, that's a false statement. So you notice our x's cancel out, and we're left with this untrue statement of 6 equals 0. That means that this equation doesn't have a solution. So the answer here is just no solution. Let's look at another one. So now we have this equation. Again, we have the distributive property. So we need to multiply negative 2 times 4y and negative 2 times 1. So on the left, we're left with negative 8y minus 2. And on the right, we have negative 8y minus 2. What I'm noticing is that the left-hand side of our equation and the right-hand side of our equation are the exact same thing. So if we try to simplify this, again, you're going to notice that our variables are going to cancel out. And that's because negative 8y plus 8y is 0. So if those variables all cancel out, we are left with the statement negative 2 equals negative 2. Well, that is true. Negative 2 does equal negative 2. So if you're left with this true statement at the very end and your variables have canceled out, that means we have infinitely many solutions. And in our next module, we'll talk about what that would look like on a graph. So to kind of summarize here, when your variables cancel out and you're left with a true statement such as 3 equals 3, that's a scenario of infinite solutions. When you are left with a false statement and your variables have canceled out, and you're left with something such as 4 equals 0, well, that's never going to be true. That means that your equation has no solutions.